one thing I don't like to do is exaggerate. One thing I try to do in doing this show is find a very medium, level-headed thought when it comes to our Georgia Southern Eagles. But this upcoming game against James Madison is a huge game. It's a huge task for our Georgia Southern Eagles. I'm not saying it's bigger than a rivalry game, but this game hinges on a lot what goes on with the rest of the season. I'm going to talk about that and get into James Madison and what we need to do, some sort of a preview of this game. If this is your first time here, welcome. This is the First and Frame Rate Show. I am VF Baller. Over here we talk about Georgia Southern and Atlanta Falcons football. Georgia Southern, after losing to Georgia State, a lot of people end up being really, really upset about losing to them, and I get it. You don't want to lose to a team like that because it's your in-state rival, especially after all the strides we have made to make a presence in this state, recruiting and making relationships with high schools or whatever. I get it. Appalachian State is another rivalry that we have that has a lot of implications within, the old, tradition between those two teams. James Madison has come to the Sun Belt and for all intents and purposes look like they have taken over this conference, not just the East, but the conference. And they're coming to Paulson, one of the most historic FCS, if not one of the most historic college football stadiums in the country. Last time they was at Georgia Southern, we beat them 24-17. That was a long time ago. So now we're looking at a situation where these two different teams are very different from back then, and they're on a collision course to where for both of these squads, it could be very much, program changing to an extent. Georgia Southern is on the they're on the heels of making big progress with this program. Coach Clay Helton come in. He's changed the whole dynamic of the program, the attitude, the vibe of the program, and it's very exciting. Don't get me wrong. Even we are sitting at 3-3, it's very exciting. But what you need to understand is there are games that we are losing in a way that's very disheartening. Yes, we only lost 3 games and we won 3 games, but the way that we're losing these games is very disappointing. And it calls for people like me, a guy behind the microphone, and people that are in the fan base. I hear it all. I read it all over my Discord. I read it on Twitter. I know some people who I talk to personally. They're talking about it's like, wait a minute. It's not the fact that we're losing. It's how we're losing. It's only in some cases it has to be an extreme when it comes to Georgia Southern in the first year of Coach Clay Helton. It's either we go through and beat everybody and it looks as dominant as possible, or we get beat and the other teams look as dominant as possible. Because you kind of got between both extremes, you kind of have an understanding. Well, we're very dominant because Cal Van Treese and the receivers are putting up numbers, which they are, still averaging over 35 points a game. We're doing big things, passing over 300 yards a game. We're doing big things, so we should be dominating. But when we turn around and, we lose, and you can make the case that, okay, it's his first year, he'll turn things around. It kind of seemed like both things are happening at the same time. Offensively, we're dominating. We're doing very well in on offense. There's no denying about that. Even with all the turnovers that Kyle Van Treese has produced, some of it's not his fault, but they're there. We're dominating on offense. I mean, we're constantly putting up 30, 35, 40 points a game, but we're still looking like that team that's our first year on the field with a new coach on defense. I mean, we're giving up 30 points a game. I'm not saying that's a recipe for losses, because if I still stand by this. If we don't have the turnovers, it's a possibility that we're at least 5-1. At the very least, we're 5-1. Maybe 6-0. I don't know. The UAB game still haunts us. I don't know. But going into James Madison, I'm going to talk about these guys and what they're capable of. James Madison has allowed only 15 points a game. They have dominated teams like, Mid-Tennessee, which beat Florida. They I don't say who's this other team they beat because I can't get this. I think it's Norfolk. Yeah, Norfolk State, 63-7. Yeah, those guys are somewhat pushovers. I get it. Appalachian State, they came back from 28-3 to beat them in Boone, North Carolina. That's impressive. They beat up on Texas State and Arkansas State by the way of 40-13 and 42-20. Now, I don't think that Georgia Southern is going to be laying down to that extent. I don't think it's going to be that lopsided. I think Georgia Southern can put up points, but you also have to understand why this is a huge game for Georgia Southern. This is a team that puts up 15 points a game. This is a team that's only allowed 42 yards a game rushing. That got to be at least top 5 in the country. I mean, I don't even know all the rankings, but that got to be top 5 in the country, maybe top 10. And with a guy like Jalen White is on his way to 1,000 yards rushing, through 6 games, he's over 500 yards. That doesn't bode too well for Georgia Southern. Now, I do have a remedy to that, because just because they give up only 42 yards a game, there's a remedy for that, and I'm going to talk about that before I get off this show today. But not only that, they only give up 186 yards passing. Now, once again, like I said, they played against other teams that's not as dynamic as we are, that can move the ball like we can. We can move the ball very well against anybody. If we limited turnovers, like I said, we could beat anybody easily, in my opinion. So with that being said, I'm looking at this situation here with James Madison. This is a very big game for us. Very big. Because not only that, they're ranked and they're coming in with the chip on their shoulder, definitely. We could possibly fall to 0-3 in the conference in under 500, which is something I didn't even look into. I didn't think this was going to be happening. If anything, I still stood. I can't stand by it no more because I think my prediction is shot. I thought it was going to go 8-4 this year. Seriously, the game against Georgia State, that shouldn't have happened. In my opinion, I don't think the way we lost that game. I did not have 4, interceptions and 5 turnovers in the cards with my prediction. So, yeah, whatever. There's ways to be wrong in this stuff, and it is what it is. But now we move forward, and we're looking at this team. Another way this is a huge game for us, if we go in and beat this team, James Madison, which I think we can, which I'll talk about that before, like I said, before I get off the show. We could beat James Madison. That'll be another ranked team that came to Paulson, and we took them out. We knocked them out of the rankings. Ask Appalachian State about that. They know all too well about us taking them out of the rankings. Even before the FBS days, we did it in the FCS as well. We gained a lot of confidence going forward for the rest of the season, and it really helps, the fan base as well, as far as the confidence we will have to give to these guys. Feed off. So when we go to Paulson this weekend, we need to give them all the energy possible, because this is going to be a big game. I don't know how well James Madison travels. I hope they do, because I hope it could be a loud, packed stadium. Now, I don't think they're going to outshine Paulson. They outshine our fan base in Paulson. I don't think they're going to do that. But I would like to see a nice size crowd for everybody, just for the team, because I think that we play very well in front of a big crowd. Just go ask Arkansas. Nebraska. As Nebraska. I'm looking at Arkansas State right here. It kind of threw me off on the screen. So this is a big deal at the end of the day. This is a very big deal for Georgia Southern. This is a huge game. You don't want to fall 0-3 in the conference. You don't want to be 3-4 going forward. You still want to be in the running to get a bowl game. I don't know if we're going to win the conference we start off 0-2. I mean, we basically have to win out to be contenders, but I don't even know, because James Madison's still going to have a leg on us. But you still want to find a way to win every game you're playing from here on out. Because the way things are going right now, if it continues to go this way, Appalachian State and Georgia Southern is going to be like a really weird looking game going at the end of the year. It's going to be really weird. But I'm looking at their schedule too, and man, I'm not gonna lie, it's not as easy as we thought it to be. You know, they got to go to Coastal Carolina, they got to go to Marshall, and then they got to come play us. You know, Appalachian State has a potential to be under 400. I mean, under 500 at the end of the season. It's a potential that could possibly happen. They're going to play Georgia State next week too. That, you know, I don't want to go too far in the weeds, but seriously, you know, just like us, we're both be in danger of being under 500 at the end of the season. We have to be very careful. This is why I say this game is very big for us. We have to find a way to win this game. I just don't know any way to say it. I'm actually impressed with the way James Madison has played this year. They've played very well. They just come straight out of the FCS to FBS. I mean, they were contenders in the FCS for the national title a few years back. I think they won one. And then they come to the Sun Belt and just show what they can do. The game against Appalachian State, coming back to win that game, was very impressive. And that just doesn't bode well for us at Georgia Southern, because our defense is not very, very good. Now, before I get out of here, I want to talk about what we can do to win this game. We need to spread this defense out. That's one thing I haven't seen. I think Appalachian State did a pretty good job of doing that. And they was up 28-3. They ended up losing that game because I didn't even watch that game, but I know that they were up because they ran an offense where they spread these guys out. And while they spread these guys out, they were able to run the ball as well. This is where James White comes in. You know what I mean? This is where James White comes in. Now, I can say they ran the ball very well, but their leading rusher only had 40 yards. But they was able to do something. They threw for 235. They didn't run that. They didn't run the ball very well. They ran the ball worse than I thought they did. If anything, James Madison ran the ball much better. And Centerio is a dual threat, which is something else I will talk about later down the road, but when we get closer to the game. But to be honest with you, I didn't watch much of the game, but I thought they was able to run the ball fairly well for them to be up so much. I mean, like I said, they didn't run very well. I don't know what's going on there. I want to apologize, but that's something that we're going to have to do at Georgia Southern. We're going to have to find a way to run the ball. I mean, that's nowhere other way around. They only ran the ball for 63 yards. And I think with them going for 235, I think we'll be able to do something with that. I'm not too much worried. I think we'll be able to throw the ball pretty well. We should be able to. As long as we limit the turnovers, we should be good. So, if anything, like I said, we need to spread this team out and find some ways to get the ball in our running backs' hands and get these guys in space. We got 3 guys that can do it. If we could do that, we're good money. So I don't know any other way to think about from that standpoint. I do feel that defensively, I think we just gonna have a tall task of defense. It could be somewhat of a shootout. If anything, we can limit the possessions by running the ball. But I don't even know if we don't even run an offense like that. But that's something that we're going to have to do because James Madison is ready to go. So I don't know. I think that's one of the first things we're going to have to do. We're going to have to find a way to run the ball against it. We can't. I don't want to be one-dimensional against this team. I do not want to be one-dimensional against this team because if we are one-dimensional with this team, it kind of messes up the way we want to run an offense, to be honest. Because we throw more of situations where we're being to turn over the ball. Maybe Kyle Van Treese could turn that around and not turn the ball over as much. Okay, I don't want that to go. So let me back out of this. Sorry about that. If you heard that audio. But I wanted to be more balanced. But these guys are allowing only 42 yards. I don't know how that's going to go. So I'm just looking at this, trying to figure out what we can do. And honestly, we need to run the ball. We do need to run the ball against the team. I don't know if we'll be able to, but we need to run the ball. I trust Jalen White. The dude is a beast. But we need to find a way. Gerald Green is another one. You get him in space, you're not catching him. And Omari Arnold can surprise a lot of people with a balance of both. So if we can get the running game going, just try to shock these guys, we could probably shock the world and beat number 25, James Madison. I think we can do it, honestly. The game is at 4 o'clock on the 15th. We'll talk about it at that point and go from there. If you like this commentary, hit the like button, share this podcast, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let me know what you guys think. James Madison, this is a huge game. It's a real big game. And you guys let me know what your thoughts are. You can find me on Twitter at VFBaller. I am also on YouTube and Rumble. I am on Anchor, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. So all of those places, YouTube and Rumble. Podcast side, Anchor, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. You also can find me on the Discord, First and Frame Rates. All the links are down in the description. If you want to support in any way, you can find your way down there and see what works for you. I really appreciate all the support. I cannot thank you guys enough. I'm kind of at a loss of words with this game, so we'll continue to talk about it further down in the once we get close to the game, and we'll just go from there. All right, y'all. I'm gonna get out of here. Y'all take it easy. Y'all be blessed. Peace.